All right, so imagine trying to make sense of our modern economy, but you have to do it without any of the concepts we just take for granted. I'm talking no supply and demand, no GDP, not even a stock market. Today, we're going back to a time when the world was changing so fast, people had to literally invent a whole new science just to keep up.
Here's a kind of a wild thought to kick us off. What if the economy, this giant automatic system we talk about every single day, is actually a pretty recent invention? What if for almost all of human history, it just didn't exist?
You see, for millennia, life wasn't really ruled by invisible market forces. It was run by very, very visible commands. A master ordered a slave, a lord dictated the life of a serf. Society was, simple, plain, and pretty predictable. But then, the world started to feel different. It was less like a kingdom and more like this complex, ticking machine, governed by these hidden rules that somebody desperately needed to figure out.
And this, right here, is the crucial point. Economics wasn't born in some quiet university library. It was forged out of sheer necessity. It was basically a survival guide for this brand new, bewildering world.
The science of economics really got its start right alongside capitalism. Its one and only purpose at the beginning was to understand how this new system of interconnected markets actually worked. Because for the first time, markets weren't just a place you went on a Saturday morning, they were becoming the very heart of society, and they were starting to control everything.
I mean, think about it. In ancient Greece or Rome, there wasn't really an economic puzzle to solve. Slaves worked because they were commanded to, and under feudalism, serfs farmed the land because of ancient customs and, the Lord's power. Those fundamental questions, who makes what and for whom, they were answered by tradition and force, not by prices and profits. The machinery was all out in the open.
So, who were the first explorers of this strange new territory? Well, meet the mercantilists. You can think of them as the original treasure hunters of economics. And man, they were obsessed with one thing: gold. For the mercantilists, a nation's wealth had nothing to do with what its people made or how well they lived. It was brutally simple. Wealth was just the amount of gold and silver piled up in the king's treasury. That was it. A powerful nation was a rich nation, and a rich nation had a very, very full vault.
So how do you fill that vault? Well, they had a simple, powerful strategy: trade. The mercantilists believed that profit wasn't made in the workshop, it was made on the journey. The whole formula was just buy cheap and sell dear. Buy goods for a low price in one place, sell them for a much higher price somewhere else. That difference, paid in solid gold, was how a nation got rich.
And this core belief, it led to this incredibly aggressive national playbook. The goal was always the same: sell more than you buy. To make that happen, governments would do pretty much anything: promote their own exports, block foreign imports, and keep wages brutally low to undercut the competition. They were not afraid to use the full power of the state, from creating monopolies to literally using military force, all to keep that river of gold flowing in one direction: inwards. But hey, not everyone was convinced by the treasure hunters. Over in France, a totally new school of thought popped up: the Physiocrats. They looked at this obsession with gold and trade and basically said, you've all missed the point, completely. Wealth isn't found in a treasure chest, it grows from the soil.
Now this was a radical idea. The Physiocrats argued that merchants don't create wealth, they just move it around. Real, actual, new wealth, they insisted, is only born in one place: agriculture. Industry and trade, sure, they might change its shape, but only farming could bring something genuinely new into the world.
They even gave this new wealth a special name: the produit net, or the net product. This is the surplus you have after you've accounted for every single input: the seeds, the tools, even the farmer's own food. And to the Physiocrats, this wasn't just some clever accounting trick, it was a real, tangible gift of nature, a physical increase in the nation's total wealth. So here's how they saw it working. Let's say a farmer starts the year with inputs worth 3 milliards. That was their currency. Then, thanks to the unique power of the land, that gift of nature, they end up harvesting 5 milliards worth of crops. That difference, the 2 milliards that just kind of appeared out of nowhere, that is the produit net. And in their view, it's the only truly new wealth created in the entire economy. This focus on surplus and agriculture led the Physiocrats to create something just groundbreaking. It's what many people consider the very first economic model. They called it the tableau économique, the economic table.
Okay, so at the heart of the tableau was this new vision of society split into three key classes. First, you've got the farmers. They called them the productive class because only they created new wealth. Then you have the landlords, who owned the land and lived off that surplus by collecting rent. And finally, everyone else, artisans, merchants, they were all lumped into what they called the sterile class. Now, that wasn't meant as an insult. It's just that they believed this class only transformed wealth. It didn't create it. The tableau is this masterpiece that showed exactly how money and goods flowed between these groups over a single year. It was like a diagram of the nation's entire circulatory system.
And you really can't underestimate how important they thought this was. One of their leaders, the Marquis de Mirabeau, made this almost unbelievable claim. He said the tableau was one of the three greatest inventions in history, right up there with, get this, writing and money. I mean, wow, that's the kind of cosmic importance they placed on this diagram.
And that was the real revolution of the tableau. The economy was no longer a static treasure chest you just fill up with gold. For the very first time, it was seen as a dynamic, living system, an interconnected, circular flow where one person's spending becomes another person's income. It was a whole new way of seeing how the world worked.
So what we have now are two completely different maps to national wealth, drawn by two rival groups of explorers, the treasure-hunting mercantilists and the farming-focused physiocrats. And when you put their ideas side by side, you can actually see the foundations of every economic debate that was to come.
The contrast just couldn't be sharper, right? For the mercantilists, it's a zero-sum game of trade, fought with heavy government intervention to hoard gold. For the physiocrats, it's a positive-sum system of production where a real surplus is generated from the land, and the government's best move is to just get out of the way. Laissez-faire. Let it be.
And here's their incredible, lasting legacy. Even though both theories were ultimately wrong about a lot of the details, they gave us the essential building blocks for everything that came next. The mercantilists, they forced us to think about the nation-state and the balance of trade. The physiocrats, they handed us the concepts of production, economic surplus, and the really radical idea of the economy as a self-regulating system. They were asking all the right questions.
So in the end, these treasure hunters and these farmers drew the first rough maps of our economic world. They asked the big, foundational questions about where wealth really comes from. Now, their maps were flawed, their answers were incomplete, but they had started the journey. The only question left was, who would finally put all the pieces together?